Hi, my name is George Vega, and today I'll be talking about social models for small team social networks. What makes a successful team? Well, there are a lot of things that might be involved into this, including, for example, amount of resources, each individual's own abilities. A lot of it actually depends on human relations. And regardless of whether you have a well-defined hierarchy, unless somehow constrained, social interactions based on individuals' preferences always emerge, which in other words means that social networks are inevitable. And because of that, in order to better understand the team overall, we need to study its social network. So we need to understand what are the processes that govern the formation of social networks. And whereas that means seeing whether homophily, which is the tendency of individuals with a shared preference or something similar to create a tie, social balance, or popularity are the features that drive this graph, these networks, we can actually use exponential-family random graph models, also known as ERGMs, to understand this. And ERGMs, in general, in simple statistical terms, mean that they allow us to do a statistical inference on what network patterns. Exponential random graph models themselves are actually fairly complex models for studying networks. The main problem of this is that while these are very flexible in the sense that we can test for a lot of different hypotheses simultaneously, in order to fit these models, we need to compute this normalizing constant, which in general, it's almost impossible to do so, unless you have small networks. In the case that you have small networks, actually the normalizing constant becomes tractable, which means that we can calculate this expression exactly, which is not what is done commonly in, let's say, in a regular settings for studying networks. And we call this approach on fitting ERGMs for small networks using exact statistics, we call it ERGMito. So what are the benefits of using these exact statistic methods instead of approximation, which is what's commonly done? Well, there are a few. First, we have improved accuracy, meaning that we have less biased estimates, which is very important, of course. Second, we have seen that ERGMitos using exact statistics reduces the type 1 error rates. Third, estimation is faster, which is actually a problem in the case of exponential random graph models. And last but not least, the simple fact that we can compute this exactly without using approximations opens the door to a variety of new statistical methods that we can apply in the context of exponential random graph models. Now, to show you what we can do with this, we apply ERGMs, and in particular ERGMitos, to analyzing the emergence of advice-seeking networks in small teams. So what we have here, this figure shows a set of small networks that we built, essentially, that we obtained from a lab experiment, in which we invited individuals to our lab and assigned them randomly to small teams between 4 to 5 people. Then each team was asked to perform a set of tasks, and after that, we analyze the advice-seeking network of each team, meaning that if we observe a tie here, it means that this individual asked for advice to these other individuals. So a few things that we found are, first, individuals with higher social perceptiveness tended to receive more connections, which means that individuals who were better at reading emotions tended to be those who others look for advice. Second, we do observe the tendency that is very common in social networks of balanced triads, which means that as described in some other parts of the literature, we can think about this as the friend of my friend is my friend phenomena. It's a feature that is important in these networks. And third, women tended to ask for advice more frequently. So overall, to conclude, the whole is not the sum of the parts. We know that in order to understand teams, we need to have a better understanding of the networks as well and the team as a whole. We cannot stay just looking at individual level features by themselves. And that's understanding the local macro dependencies is a key thing. So again, how does the number of homophilic ties, how do neutral ties affect the overall structure of the graph is very important. Third, we can actually, to do that, we can actually use ERGMitos to elucidate what are the processes that govern these small networks. And fourth, getting a better understanding of this, on what are the structures that drive the small networks in teams, is very important to understand the team process performance itself and team design ultimately. Thank you very much.